Welcome to the Top Stoic Channel. Bring positive energy into your life. 8 ways to handle people who don't respect you. Throughout history, human relationships have been shaped by conflict, misunderstanding, and the delicate balance of respect. The Stoics' wise thinkers like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus faced these same struggles. Their answer was simple but profound. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. In other words, don't become what you despise. Welcome to Stoic Secrets. In today's journey, we'll explore 8 powerful Stoic approaches to handling people who don't respect you, practical tools that transform conflict into an opportunity for growth and peace. Disrespect is inevitable. You'll meet people who cross your boundaries, who speak without thinking, or act from their own pain. The real question is, how will you respond? Will you react emotionally, giving away your power? Or will you choose a higher path, calm, measured, and rooted in wisdom? Modern Stoicism invites us to pause before we act, to examine the situation from a place of strength, not insecurity. It teaches us that our inner peace is not up for negotiation, no matter how others behave. You are not obligated to engage in every battle. Sometimes, true power lies in walking away or in choosing silence when words would only deepen the wound. As we explore these 8 Stoic responses, ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to be? Someone who reflects the chaos of others, or someone who stays anchored in their values? Let's grow together through this conversation. Have you ever been disrespected at work, in your family, or among friends? How did you respond? And looking back, would you do it differently now? Share your stories in the comments. If you're ready to reclaim your peace, refine your character, and respond to life's challenges with the wisdom of the Stoics, hit that like button and subscribe. Your journey towards strength and serenity starts here. Now, let's dive into the 8 Stoic strategies that can reshape how you deal with disrespect forever. 1. Set clear boundaries. The foundation of self-respect. In a disrespectful world, from the ancient streets of Rome to today's fast-paced digital world, one principle remains as vital now as it was centuries ago. Boundaries are the foundation of self-respect. In the face of disrespect, whether subtle or overt, the ability to set firm, clear boundaries defines the strength of your character and the quality of your life. The Stoics, especially figures like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca, understood that the chaos of the outside world is something we cannot control, but how we respond to it that is entirely within our power. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, Epictetus wisely declared. And nowhere is this wisdom more essential than when dealing with people who fail to show us respect. Boundaries are not barriers. They're foundations. Setting boundaries is not about building walls to shut people out. It's about laying the groundwork for healthy relationships. It's not passive. It's not wishful thinking. It's not waiting for others to magically get it. True boundary setting requires clarity, confidence, and a deep understanding of your self-worth. Think about it. How often have you tolerated behavior that made you uncomfortable, hoping things would change on their own? How many times have you stayed silent, fearing confrontation? It's a common trap. Believing that being overly kind and endlessly accommodating will earn respect. But as many have learned the hard way, kindness without strength is often mistaken for weakness. People respond to the standards you set. If you tolerate disrespect, you're silently signaling that such behavior is acceptable. Without boundaries, your sense of self slowly erodes. Modern Stoicism reminds us that we are the stewards of our peace, and protecting it is not selfish. It is necessary, a lesson from personal experience. I once believed that if I just stayed nice, if I gave people the benefit of the doubt and avoided tension, they would eventually come around. But it rarely works that way. When kindness isn't matched by assertiveness, it can invite more disrespect, not less. It wasn't until I started clearly communicating my limits, calmly but firmly, that dynamics began to shift. Boundaries teach people how to treat you. Marcus Aurelius said, "A man's worth is measured by the worth of what he values." If you value peace, honesty, and respect, then those must become non-negotiables in your life, and you must be prepared to enforce them. Assertive, not aggressive. A boundary is not a battle. It's a declaration of values. You don't need to raise your voice or express rage to draw a line. In fact, anger often weakens your position. What Stoicism teaches us is that mastery lies in composure. Imagine a coworker constantly interrupting you during meetings. If you stay silent, the pattern will continue. But if you say, calmly and directly, "I'd appreciate it if I could finish my thought," before you respond, you've shifted the dynamic. You haven't insulted them. You haven't started a fight. You've simply communicated your standard. It might feel awkward the first time. Discomfort is part of growth. But over time, asserting your needs becomes second nature. And with each boundary you set, you reinforce your own sense of worth, something no one else can give or take away. Boundaries reflect who you are. Boundaries aren't just about keeping others in check. They're a mirror, reflecting your own priorities and self-discipline. People who respect themselves send signals through words, tone, and action that they won't tolerate mistreatment, and those signals are powerful. Seneca once warned, "No man can live a peaceful life who thinks too much about prolonging it." In the same way, if we spend our lives trying to appease those who disrespect us, we'll never find the serenity we seek. Peace doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from standing firm in who we are. Speak your truth with grace. You don't need to choose between silence and aggression. There's a middle path, and Stoicism shows us how to walk it. Let's say a friend frequently belittles you in subtle ways. Rather than stewing in silence or exploding in anger, you can say, "I value our friendship, but those remarks make me uncomfortable. I need them to stop." That one moment of courage reshapes your relationship. It doesn't guarantee immediate change, but it sets the tone for future interactions. You've shown respect for yourself and for the relationship. Boundaries as a daily practice. Like any skill, boundary setting gets easier with time. At first, you may second-guess yourself or worry about the consequences. But each time you assert your needs with clarity, you train yourself to live with greater integrity. Some people won't respond well. That's to be expected. Not every boundary will be welcomed. But that's not the point. The goal isn't to make others comfortable. It's to honor your values and protect your peace. Even in challenging situations, like addressing a disrespectful boss or setting limits with a family member, your tone can remain calm, your message clear. And as you do this more often, you'll find yourself less reactive, more grounded. The Stoic model of strength. Modern Stoicism reminds us that self-control isn't about suppressing emotion, it's about channeling it wisely. When we lash out, we surrender control. When we respond with calm clarity, we demonstrate strength. A Stoic doesn't avoid confrontation out of fear. They face it with dignity, knowing that how they handle the moment is a reflection of their inner state. Each boundary becomes a marker in their journey, not just toward commanding respect from others, but toward becoming the kind of person they themselves can admire. The long-term rewards of boundaries. While setting boundaries may not change others overnight, it always changes you. Over time, you'll notice that your confidence grows, your anxiety lessens, and your relationships become more genuine. Why? Because you're no longer operating from fear, you're acting from a place of self-respect. You begin to attract people who appreciate your clarity, who value your standards, and who share your values. And those who don't, they slowly fall away, and that's okay. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to live in alignment with your values, your life, your rules. In the end, the question isn't, will others respect me? It's, do I respect myself enough to require it? That's where everything begins. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca all knew that life's greatest trials are not the insults or slights of others, but the internal tests of how we choose to respond. Will we surrender our peace, or will we defend it with grace? Setting boundaries is not just about managing people, it's about managing yourself. When you learn to do this, you step into a life of clarity, strength, and lasting tranquility. So the next time someone crosses the line, remember this: you teach people how to treat you, and the first lesson is how you treat yourself. 2. Don't engage in power. Struggles, mastering power, dynamics through Stoic self-control. There's a sobering truth many of us eventually face. People who disrespect you often do so intentionally. It's not accidental, and it's rarely about misunderstanding. These individuals thrive on power dynamics. They know how to press your buttons, provoke a reaction, and steer the conversation away from reason and toward chaos. Why? Because their goal isn't to resolve conflict, it's to make you lose control. And the moment you react, whether it's anger, defensiveness, or frustration, you've handed them exactly what they wanted: power over your emotions. This isn't just about winning or losing an argument. Every time you're baited into reacting, you're pulled away from your calm center. You become emotionally entangled in a game that was never meant to be fair. That's why one of the core teachings of Stoicism, both ancient and modern, is learning to resist the urge to react. Composure is power. Power struggles, the hidden trap. These power struggles are draining. They exhaust your energy, blur your focus, and distract you from what truly matters: your peace of mind. The Stoics saw this clearly. They understood that while you can't always control what people say or do, you always control how you respond. But Stoic indifference doesn't mean allowing mistreatment or staying silent when wronged. It's about keeping your emotional balance. You stay in charge of your reactions, not theirs. Let's paint a scenario. You're in a team meeting, and someone rudely shoots down your suggestion in front of others. Your instinct might be to fire back with sarcasm or demand an apology on the spot. But what if instead you paused, took a breath, and calmly said, "I see where you're coming from, but here's why I believe my idea still holds value." Now you're no longer playing their game. You've shifted the dynamic. If they continue to be dismissive, you can step away from the conversation, knowing they've lost their power over you. Your restraint becomes your armor, and your poise becomes your strength. Every reaction is a choice. The truth is, not every battle is worth fighting, and not every rude remark deserves a response. When you engage every time someone crosses a line, you're essentially opening the gates of your inner peace and letting them trample through. In the competitive arenas of modern life work, relationships, social media, it's easy to be provoked. There will always be someone testing your limits, trying to shake your foundation just to see how you'll react. But when you live by Stoic principles, you understand this simple truth: people only have the power you give them. Speak when it matters. Walk away when it doesn't. Disengaging doesn't mean being silent. It means choosing your words and your battles wisely. Sometimes, a single sentence is enough to hold your ground. Something like, "I'm not going to argue about this," followed by calmly walking away, can be more powerful than any heated debate. This tactic is rooted in ancient wisdom. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That's the heart of Stoicism, not reacting out of impulse, but responding with intention. When you refuse to be pulled into petty conflicts, you're doing more than avoiding drama. You're building a fortress around your mind, a strong mental foundation. What the Stoics called an iron mind isn't built through domination of others, but through domination of the self. Daily provocations, Stoic responses. In today's world, this teaching is more valuable than ever. Think about online arguments where people throw out provocations just to trigger emotional responses. Or those tense family dinners where someone makes a cutting remark, knowing it'll upset you. In these moments, reacting emotionally might feel justified. But the Stoic path offers something better. Freedom. Freedom from being pulled into battles that don't serve you. Freedom from needing to win every debate. Freedom from tying your dignity to someone else's behavior. True strength, as Stoicism teaches, doesn't come from overpowering others. It comes from mastering yourself. When you learn to walk away from toxic power struggles, you're not backing down. You're choosing a deeper, longer-lasting victory, self-mastery, emotional immunity, a Stoic superpower. Here's the beauty of practicing restraint. Over time, it reshapes you. The things that once triggered you will begin to lose their sting. The rude comment, the eye roll, the sarcastic jab, none of it penetrates as deeply when your sense of peace no longer depends on external validation. Eventually, you'll realize that your dignity isn't tied to how others treat you. It's rooted in how you treat yourself in response. That's real freedom. That's emotional strength. This is what modern Stoicism offers. The ability to remain grounded when others are spinning out. It doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means becoming unshakable. The power of letting go. So the next time someone tries to bait you into a conflict, whether it's a coworker undermining you, a friend picking a fight, or a stranger online, pause and ask yourself, is this really worth my energy? If the answer is no, then disengage with grace. Let them have the last word. Let them feel like they won. Because you've already won something far more important: control over your emotions and clarity over your values. Seneca once said, "The greatest power is often simple patience." That kind of power isn't loud or aggressive. It's quiet, firm, and unwavering. Your strength, your peace. By refusing to be dragged into every insult or slight, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your emotional health. You send a clear message. My worth is not up for negotiation. This is the heart of Stoicism. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You don't need to react to every provocation. You simply need to stay rooted in what you can control: your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. And when you do that, you're no longer struggling for respect. You embody it. You radiate it. Because in mastering your responses, you master your life. 3. Limit your exposure to them. The quiet strength of setting boundaries. There's a quiet kind of wisdom that Stoicism offers, one that doesn't shout or fight, but instead chooses stillness and clarity. One of its most profound teachings is this: you don't need to confront everyone who disrespects you sometimes. The most powerful move is to limit your exposure. Not every relationship can be avoided. You might share an office with a difficult colleague, live next to a hostile neighbor, or have family members who drain your spirit. But here's the liberating truth. You get to decide how much access people have to your time, energy, and emotions. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Often, the suffering we feel doesn't come from the moment itself, but from the time we spend replaying it in our minds, stewing in resentment, or preparing for the next encounter. The root cause? Allowing the wrong people to take up too much space in our lives. A subtle shift, a powerful change. Stoicism doesn't ask you to rage against every injustice. Instead, it asks for something more sustainable. Learn to guard your peace like a sacred space. If someone continues to belittle you, dismiss your ideas, or undermine your confidence, confrontation may not be the answer. Distance might be. This doesn't require dramatic exits or emotional declarations. You don't need to tell people you're stepping back. You simply do it. Quietly, gradually, with intention. You start responding less, participating less, showing up only when necessary. Think of it as tuning down the volume on a noisy radio. The sound might still be there, but it no longer dominates your space. Navigating real life with real limits. It's easy to feel stuck, especially when toxic people are part of your everyday life. Maybe it's a coworker whose constant negativity poisons your mornings, or a so-called friend who always has a backhanded compliment ready. You might tell yourself, "But I have to see them every day." And that might be true, but what you don't have to do is give them full access to your mental and emotional resources. For example, keep your workplace interactions short and to the point. Keep conversations professional, not personal. Stick to what's necessary and leave the rest behind. Outside of work, avoid unnecessary gatherings where you know you'll feel drained afterward. Decline with grace. No explanation needed. Save your energy for people who bring out the best in you, for those who respect your boundaries and value your presence. A story of quiet strength. Let me share a story that might sound familiar. A friend of mine, David, used to attend weekly family dinners, something he once looked forward to. But one relative would always use the opportunity to mock David's career choices, tossing passive-aggressive comments at him in front of everyone. For years, David brushed it off. "It's just family," he told himself. He didn't want to rock the boat. But slowly, those Sunday afternoons began to feel like a burden. He started dreading the very moments that once brought him comfort. Eventually, David made a quiet decision. If a relationship drains more than it gives, it's time to draw a line. He didn't make a scene. He didn't confront anyone. He simply began attending fewer gatherings, showing up only for occasions that truly mattered. The result? Peace. The relief was almost immediate. He stopped subjecting himself to constant disrespect, and in doing so, he reclaimed his Sundays and his self-worth. Boundaries are not rejection. They're self-respect. One of the most freeing realizations you can have is that you don't owe anyone full access to your life. Not everyone gets to sit at your table, and you don't need to explain why. People who thrive on conflict often want a reaction. They want you to get upset. They want you to argue. But when you stop feeding the fire, it burns out on its own. You're not ghosting or being cold. You're choosing peace over chaos, clarity over noise. It's not avoidance, it's alignment. You're aligning your time and presence with the things and people that support your growth. Make room for what matters. Every moment spent with someone who disrespects you is a moment stolen from someone who uplifts you. The more you pull away from toxic interactions, the more space you create for authentic connection. Ask yourself, are there people in my life who leave me feeling small, unseen, or drained? If the answer is yes, you don't have to cut them out completely. You just have to cut back the access they have to your inner world. Your time and energy are finite, and every ounce you spend on negativity is energy that could have been used to build something better: your passions, your well-being, your true relationships. A Stoic reminder for modern life. Seneca offered timeless advice when he said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Life is too short to be spent in rooms where you are merely tolerated, not valued. Too short to entertain relationships that undermine your spirit." And here's the powerful ripple effect. When you draw boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. You set a standard not with anger, but with quiet clarity. You say, without needing to speak it aloud, "I value myself enough to walk away from what doesn't." Choosing distance is choosing power. Limiting exposure to those who disrespect you isn't weakness. It's not failure. It's power. It's self-care in its highest form. You don't control how others act, but you control how you respond. And sometimes, the most powerful response is distance. Not to shut people out, but to make space for those who genuinely deserve to be let in. Ask yourself one simple question: is this relationship worth my peace? If it's not, then the answer is clear. Give yourself permission to step back, not out of spite, but out of love for yourself. Thank you for spending this time with us at Stoic Secrets. If this message resonated with you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Your experiences and reflections help grow this community of mindful, resilient people. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We've got more wisdom coming your way. Let's keep growing one lesson, one step, one boundary at a time. 4. Respond with silence. The silent strength. Mastering yourself by saying nothing. Not every battle deserves your sword, and not every insult needs your voice. One of the most underrated powers we possess is the choice to say nothing. In a world that demands reactions and thrives on noise, silence has become a rare kind of strength, a core principle rooted in modern Stoicism. When someone disrespects you, they often do so with a purpose: to get under your skin, to trigger an emotional outburst, to drag you into their storm. But here's the truth: you don't have to participate. When you withhold a reaction, you deny them the very control they're seeking. You keep your peace, and they're left with their words echoing in a void. Marcus Aurelius understood this long before the age of comment sections and social media storms. He said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In other words, rise above the noise. Silence is not surrender, it's elevation. It's self-control on display. It's the quiet way of saying, "You don't get to choose how I feel." Silence isn't weakness, it's mastery. Silence, when chosen intentionally, is a show of inner strength. You're not avoiding the situation, you're managing it with grace. You're saying, "I see what you're doing, and I choose not to play." Think about it. When someone tries to provoke you and you offer no response, it leaves them off balance. They expected a rise, a counterattack, a defensive word. But instead, they're met with stillness. That stillness, that's power. Silence shifts the balance. Suddenly, it's not about what they said, it's about how you didn't respond. That absence of reaction speaks volumes. A moment we've all lived. Picture a scene you've probably experienced: a tense meeting at work or a heated family dinner. Someone throws out a disrespectful comment, designed to sting. The instinct to snap back flares up instantly. Your heart rate spikes, your breath shortens, and every cell in your body wants to fire back. But what if you paused instead? What if you took a breath, looked them in the eye, and said nothing? That pause, that moment of silence doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've taken back control. You've given yourself space to think, to feel, to decide. In that stillness, you've chosen peace over pride. And often, that silence lands harder than any clever comeback ever could. The rope. You don't have to hold. When people try to provoke you, what they really want is engagement. They want you to pick up the other end of the emotional rope so they can pull you into conflict. But here's the secret. You don't have to grab it. When you respond with silence, you drop the rope. No tug of war, no escalation. Just you, standing in your own calm, while they struggle to maintain a fight that no longer has an opponent. This isn't passivity, it's clarity. It's the decision to stay grounded when others want to spin you in circles. Epicurus once taught that what matters most isn't what happens to us, but how we respond. Stoicism echoes this truth, and silence, in this case, becomes your boundary, your protection, your power. A shield against the chaos of the world. We live in a world overflowing with opinions and arguments. Social media feeds thrive on outrage. Every platform invites us to react instantly, to prove our point, to defend our name. But those who practice silence know something deeper. The moment you resist the urge to react, you win. You preserve your energy, your dignity, and your peace. You step away from the chaos and stand firm in stillness. That silence is liberating. It tells the world, I choose not to be moved by provocation. I'm not here to win arguments. I'm here to protect my peace. And that's not just online. It applies at work, in friendships, in daily life. The colleague who always pushes your buttons, you don't need to snap back. The acquaintance who always undermines you, let your silence answer for you. They can't manipulate what they can't touch. And when you refuse to give them access to your emotions, you take their power away, the inner stillness that saves you. Silence does more than disarm others. It calms you. When emotions run high, words can spill out too fast, too sharp. Things get said that shouldn't be. But when you pause, when you hold your tongue, you buy yourself time. Time to reflect, time to reset. The Stoics called this inner stillness a calm that stays steady no matter what storms rage outside. Seneca captured it perfectly. Better to trip with the feet than with the tongue. Words can wound. They can burn bridges. But silence deliberate. Thoughtful silence preserves the path forward. It keeps relationships from breaking unnecessarily. It protects your integrity. And it reminds you that just because something demands your reaction doesn't mean it deserves it. The mirror effect. There's something deeply unsettling about silence for those who expect resistance. When you don't respond, the aggressor is left to sit in the discomfort of their own words. That quiet can be louder than any argument forcing reflection, maybe even regret. Have you ever watched someone become more agitated the longer you say nothing? That's because your silence reflects their behavior back to them. They no longer have your reaction to deflect from their own actions. And that space, though awkward, is often where growth happens. In this way, your silence becomes a mirror. You don't need to accuse, explain, or fight. You simply don't engage. And in doing so, you let the other person confront their own character. Silence with intention. Let's be clear. Silence is not avoidance. It's not giving up. It's not pretending everything is okay. It's a choice. There is a time for speaking when you need to set boundaries, protect yourself, or advocate for what's right. But wisdom lies in knowing when words will help and when they'll only fuel the fire. Choosing silence isn't about letting disrespect slide. It's about making sure disrespect doesn't have the power to slide into your soul. It's the difference between reacting and responding, between losing your center and guarding it. The true Stoic power, Mordern Stoicism, teaches us that peace doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering ourselves. And silence, when used wisely, is one of the greatest tools for that mastery. With every situation where you choose stillness over shouting, presence over pride, you grow stronger. You create more space in your mind for clarity, for reflection, for peace. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, ask yourself, do they deserve my peace? If the answer is no, then smile gently and say nothing at all. 5. Don't take it. Don't take it personally. How Stoicism teaches us to let go of what isn't ours. It's a natural human reaction when someone disrespects us, especially if their words cut deep or their actions challenge our character. We feel hurt. We might even begin to question ourselves. But Stoicism offers a powerful shift in perspective. What if their disrespect has nothing to do with you? This isn't always easy to accept. In the heat of the moment, when you feel targeted or misunderstood, it can seem like an attack on your very identity. But according to Stoic wisdom, that feeling stems not from the event itself, but from how you interpret it. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, and one of the most revered Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That insight is life-changing. What this means is that the offense doesn't actually reside in the words or actions of others. It lives in how we receive and internalize them. And that, thankfully, is within our control. It's not about you. It's about them. People often lash out not because of who you are, but because of who they are. Their disrespect may come from personal frustrations, hidden insecurities, or unresolved pain. You just happen to be in the path of their storm. Think back to a time when someone said something hurtful. Maybe a coworker made a snide comment about your work ethic, or a friend threw a passive-aggressive remark at your choices. It probably stuck with you, looping in your head, making you wonder, did I do something wrong? That's the trap. When we start believing their behavior is a reflection of our worth. But here's the truth. Their reaction says more about them than it does about you. When you stop taking things personally, you stop carrying emotional baggage that was never yours to begin with. Their words, their attitudes, their energy that belongs to them. Your only responsibility is to protect your inner peace. You are not what they say you are. One of the most empowering realizations in Stoic philosophy is this. Your value is not up for negotiation. It doesn't fluctuate based on someone's tone, someone's anger, or someone's bad day. Others might try to project their chaos onto you, but you get to decide whether you'll accept it. This mental boundary creates emotional freedom. You're no longer tossed around by every opinion, insult, or judgment. You begin to understand that while you can't control what others do, you can control what you make of it. When someone disrespects you, ask yourself, is this really about me? Or are they projecting something they haven't dealt with? Chances are, their words have more to do with their own inner struggles than with anything you've done. Clarity over chaos. This practice of not taking things personally aligns perfectly with what Epicurus taught. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about those things. In other words, your interpretation creates your experience. If you reframe disrespect as someone else's struggle, not a reflection of your identity, you rob it of its power to hurt you. You choose clarity over chaos, calm over conflict. Of course, this doesn't mean you should ignore all feedback. Some criticism is worth reflecting on. But Stoicism teaches you to discern, to separate useful insight from toxic noise. Not every harsh comment deserves your attention, and not every person gets a seat at the table of your self-worth. Let go of what isn't yours. One of the most vital Stoic lessons is learning to release what doesn't belong to you. Other people's anger, their judgment, their passive aggression. None of it is yours to carry. When you hold on to it, you make it personal. When you let it go, you reclaim your peace. So the next time someone treats you with disrespect, pause, breathe, step back, and remember, their behavior is a reflection of them, not a definition of you. Once you truly believe that, nothing they say can shake the foundation of who you are. 6. Walk away when necessary. Sometimes, the courage to walk away, a Stoic declaration of self-worth, one of the most powerful and perhaps most difficult choices you'll ever make, is deciding to walk away. Not in anger, not in defeat, but with calm, deliberate clarity. In Stoicism, this isn't seen as weakness. It's the ultimate act of courage and self-respect. Remaining in environments where disrespect is constant slowly erodes your self-worth. It's not always loud or obvious sometimes. It's a quiet, persistent drain. Over time, the emotional weight begins to wear you down. Your confidence slips. Your joy fades. You feel more and more disconnected from the person you were meant to be. The Stoics remind us that we are the guardians of our own minds. Just as a fortress is built to withstand siege, your peace should be protected fiercely. Letting toxicity remain in your space unchecked doesn't just harm you, it rewires how you think and feel. But walking away? That's when you reclaim your ground. It's not about storming out or making dramatic declarations. It's about recognizing when something or someone is chipping away at your mental well-being and quietly choosing to protect what matters most, your inner peace. Walking away is a statement, not a surrender. We've all faced situations where walking away felt impossible. Maybe it's a friendship you've outgrown, but guilt keeps you tethered. Maybe it's a job where you're undervalued, but fear whispers that you can't afford to leave. These thoughts are understandable, but they can also be chains. Walking away is not about giving up. It's about choosing yourself. You don't need a grand exit or a dramatic confrontation. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is step back quietly, set firm boundaries, and refuse to engage with energy that drags you down. It could mean ending a relationship, distancing yourself from toxic family dynamics, or even choosing silence during a conversation that's going nowhere. Each of these decisions is a personal victory. Each one is you saying, "I refuse to be treated this way. I know what I'm worth." James's story. The quiet power of letting go. Let me share a story that brings this idea to life. A friend of mine, James, spent years working at a company where his efforts were constantly dismissed. His manager belittled him in front of others, rarely acknowledged his hard work, and often made demeaning remarks that slowly chipped away at his self-confidence. James kept hoping things would change. He told himself to work harder, to stay quiet, to be patient. But the more he tolerated the disrespect, the more disconnected he became from his own value. Then came the turning point, a meeting where his boss made a humiliating comment in front of the entire team. Something shifted in James. He realized he had no control over how his boss behaved, but he did have control over whether he continued to endure it. Without drama or fury, James made his decision. He handed in his resignation, not out of spite, but from a place of self-respect. That simple act of walking away was a turning point. He later found a job where he was valued, supported, and finally recognized for his talent. James's story isn't uncommon. In fact, it's a lesson most of us have to learn at some point. Just because you've tolerated something for a long time doesn't mean you have to keep accepting it. Know when the fight isn't worth it. Sometimes we convince ourselves that enduring is noble, that pushing through disrespect is a sign of strength. But Stoicism teaches us that true strength lies in discernment, knowing when to engage and when to walk away. As Seneca wisely said, "You act like mortals in what you fear, and like immortals in what you desire." Life is fleeting. Every moment you spend in a place that drains you is a moment you won't get back. Walking away isn't just about leaving a place or a person. It's about leaving behind a mindset that tells you to stay small, to endure harm, to settle for less than you deserve. Leaving isn't always physical. Sometimes you can't leave physically, not right away, but you can start the process mentally and emotionally. You can begin to detach. You can stop internalizing the insults. You can refuse to allow someone's negativity to determine your sense of worth. Emotional boundaries can be just as powerful as physical distance. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment to leave entirely. You can begin by pulling your energy back, reclaiming the parts of yourself that have been drained by constant conflict or disrespect. Even small acts of disengagement are victories, setting a new standard. When you walk away from disrespect, you send a clear signal, not just to others, but to yourself. You set a new standard. You tell the world, "This is how I expect to be treated. This is what I will and won't allow." People begin to notice, not because you shouted or demanded respect, but because you showed it to yourself first. And once you start treating yourself with that level of dignity, others will either rise to meet you or fall away. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." By walking away from what harms you, you don't just protect your peace, you create space for what uplifts you. The freedom in letting go in the end, walking away, is not the end of a story. It's the start of a new one where you choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over struggle. The next time you find yourself in a situation that constantly drains your spirit, ask yourself, is staying worth the cost to my well-being? If the answer is no, give yourself permission to leave, not out of anger, not out of fear, but with calm, unwavering confidence. Because walking away is not defeat, it's liberation and choosing yourself. That might be the most powerful thing you ever do. 7. Surround yourself with supportive. Surround yourself with supportive people. A Stoic key to enduring peace. Dealing with disrespect takes more from us than we often realize. It doesn't just sap our energy, it gradually chips away at our sense of worth, our confidence, and our peace of mind. That's why one of the most powerful teachings in modern Stoicism is the importance of surrounding yourself with people who lift you up, those who remind you of your value, especially when the world tries to convince you otherwise. In the Stoic tradition, we are reminded that while we cannot control the actions or words of others, we can control our responses, and that includes the people we choose to spend our time with. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." But what shapes our thoughts more than the company we keep? Think about it. If you're constantly immersed in environments filled with criticism, judgment, or toxic behavior, it's only a matter of time before that negativity starts to affect your internal dialogue. You begin to question yourself, to doubt your worth, and to feel stuck. But when you surround yourself with supportive, encouraging individuals, you build a kind of emotional armor. These people become a source of strength, grounding you when life throws you off balance and reminding you of who you are when you forget. Your circle is your reflection. The people closest to you act like mirrors, reflecting back, not only how they see you, but often how you begin to see yourself. A strong support system can remind you of your potential and worth, even in your lowest moments. Conversely, the wrong company can make you shrink, question, and second-guess everything you know about yourself. Consider a moment in your life when you felt emotionally drained Perhaps it was a job where your efforts went unnoticed, or a relationship where disrespect became routine. In those moments, the people around you could either reinforce that pain or become the voices that pulled you back to clarity. The difference is profound. I remember my friend Paul, a thoughtful and hardworking guy, who stayed in a toxic work environment for far too long. His boss constantly belittled him, and after a while, Paul started to believe that maybe he wasn't doing a good job. He internalized the negativity, carrying the weight of someone else's poor behavior as if it were his own failing. It wasn't until he finally opened up to his friends, people who truly knew his character and abilities, that he began to see the situation clearly. Their encouragement, their faith in him, helped him find the courage to walk away. He left that job and found a healthier, more respectful environment where he could thrive. That's the power of the right people. They reflect your value back to you, especially when you've forgotten it yourself. What you can control. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the principle of control. We focus on what is within our power and let go of what isn't. You may not be able to change a toxic boss or force someone to treat you better, but you can choose who you give your energy to. You can decide who gets access to your heart, your mind, and your time. This is not about isolating yourself from every difficult person. Life will always have its challenges, but it is about choosing to invest more deeply in relationships that strengthen you rather than weaken you. Friends who encourage your growth, mentors who offer wisdom, and family members who speak to your strength rather than your faults. These are the people who help you stay centered in your values. True Stoic strength doesn't mean going it alone. It means building a foundation strong enough to withstand storms. And part of that foundation is the support of a community that aligns with your purpose. Support isn't just for tough times. It's easy to think of supportive relationships as something we turn to when things go wrong, but their real power lies in the consistency they offer. The people in your circle should challenge you, uplift you, and hold you accountable, not only when you're struggling, but also when you're succeeding. They are the ones who ask you hard questions, not to tear you down, but to keep you aligned with your principles. They remind you to stay true to yourself when it would be easier to conform or give in. As Seneca wisely said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. The right people won't just comfort you, they'll inspire you. They'll stretch your thinking, push you toward your goals, and call you back to your integrity when you veer off course. These relationships are not luxuries, they are necessities. Investing in meaningful connections. In today's world full of fast-paced routines, digital distractions, and constant demands, it's easy to neglect real connection. But meaningful relationships don't just happen. They require intention, reflection, and effort. You must actively choose to build them, nurture them, and protect them. Just as iron sharpens iron, the people you surround yourself with help you grow stronger, sharper, and more resilient. And when you're facing disrespect or adversity, they are the ones who give you the perspective you need to walk away not out of anger, but out of respect for yourself. Your worth isn't up for debate. One of the most empowering Stoic truths is this: your value is not determined by how others treat you. It's reflected in how you treat yourself. And one of the clearest ways to treat yourself with respect is by choosing relationships that reflect that same respect back to you. When you create space for supportive people in your life, you build an environment where your worth is honored, your voice is heard, and your presence is appreciated. This doesn't mean you'll never face disrespect again, but it does mean you'll be equipped to handle it with clarity, strength, and the assurance that you have a circle that sees your worth, even when others don't. Giving and receiving strength. These relationships work both ways. Just as your circle supports you, you also become a source of strength for them. You offer encouragement when they stumble. You reflect their worth when they forget it. You help build a shared space of mutual trust, honesty, and respect. When this kind of community is in place, it becomes much easier to walk away from people and places that don't serve you. You no longer feel the need to justify your decisions to those who refuse to see your value. You stop chasing approval where it will never be given. Instead, you move through life with quiet confidence, knowing you are supported, respected, and seen for who you truly are. Choose wisely. Epictetus once said, "He who associates with fools will learn nothing." The wisdom here is timeless. Be deliberate with your relationships. Reflect on who is in your circle. Are they adding to your life or taking from it? Do they lift you up or hold you back? Maybe there are connections you need to deepen, or perhaps some you need to release. And that's okay. Walking away becomes far easier when you're walking toward people who care about your well-being, because the goal is not to isolate yourself. The goal is to build a life rich with connection, meaning, and peace. Build the life you deserve. Modern Stoicism reminds us that strength begins within. But the right people help us uncover that strength when we lose sight of it. When you're surrounded by individuals who encourage, inspire, and respect you, you're better equipped to live according to your values, no matter what life throws your way. And when disrespect finds its way into your life, you won't feel stuck or uncertain. You'll know that you are not alone. You'll know that your worth is not on trial, and you'll have the courage to walk away, not as a reaction, but as a choice. So take stock of your circle. Cultivate connections that nourish your growth. And remember, when you surround yourself with those who see your worth, you start to see it more clearly yourself. That is one of Stoicism's greatest gifts, and one of your greatest powers. 8. Respect starts from within. Respect begins with you, a Stoic path to self-mastery. In a world where disrespect often hides behind casual conversation, authority, or even family dynamics, it's easy to forget one simple but powerful truth. Respect is not something you beg for. It's something you embody. According to the Stoics, your value does not depend on others' opinions of you. It begins and ends with how you see and treat yourself. This foundational principle of modern Stoicism offers clarity in a noisy, often hostile world. You may not always control the way others behave, but you can absolutely control your response. And that response speaks volumes about your self-respect. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. In other words, the thoughts you cultivate determine how you experience the world and how others experience you. If you walk through life accepting disrespect, over time, you'll start to internalize it. But if you carry yourself with quiet dignity and clear boundaries, you show the world and yourself exactly what you deserve. Why self-respect is the starting point. Every time you allow someone to cross a line unchecked, you silently teach them that your boundaries are flexible, your peace negotiable. Whether it's a friend making backhanded jokes at your expense, or a coworker who constantly talks over you, these small acts of disrespect pile up. Eventually, they shape your self-perception unless you intervene. This is where modern Stoicism shines. Instead of trying to change how others act, which is beyond your control, the Stoic approach encourages you to master your own behavior, to take full responsibility for how much power you give others over your emotional world. It's not about being aggressive or confrontational. It's about holding yourself to a higher standard and refusing to stay in environments or relationships that fall below it. The cost of tolerating disrespect. Let me tell you about Stephen, a well-respected manager in a competitive tech firm. Smart, driven, and generally liked, Stephen had one persistent problem: a team member who constantly disrespected him. This individual would interrupt meetings, dismiss Stephen's suggestions, and quietly spread cynicism among colleagues. For months, Stephen tried to be patient. He believed that through kindness, reason, and a bit of time, things would change. But they didn't. Instead, the more tolerant he became, the worse the behavior got. Slowly, Stephen's confidence began to erode. He started doubting his leadership. His stress levels spiked. He even considered quitting. Then, something shifted. He came across a simple yet powerful Stoic idea: no man is free who is not master of himself. That hit home. Stephen realized he had been waiting for someone else to give him the respect he deserved, when in truth, he needed to demand it from himself first. He called a private meeting with the disruptive team member. Calmly, without anger, he outlined clear expectations. He didn't raise his voice or threaten, he simply stated his boundaries and what would happen if they weren't respected. And just like that, the dynamic changed. Not because the other person suddenly became respectful, but because Stephen stopped accepting anything less. This wasn't just a professional win. It was a deep personal transformation. Stephen didn't just reclaim control of a team. He reclaimed control of himself. How you respond defines you. This story isn't unique. Every one of us faces moments where we're treated poorly, sometimes subtly, sometimes blatantly. The real difference lies in what happens next. Do you brush it off to avoid conflict? Do you shrink yourself to stay liked? Or do you rise above, rooted in the quiet strength of self-respect? Modern Stoicism gives us the tools to do just that. When someone disrespects you, you have three core options: set a boundary, walk away, or respond with silence. Each choice is powerful in its own right, not because it controls others, but because it reinforces the message you send yourself. I am not someone who accepts less than I deserve. This mindset creates a ripple effect. When you raise your standard, others either rise to meet it or naturally fade away. Either outcome is a win. It's not about them. It's about you. Here's the trap many fall into: thinking that someone's disrespect is a reflection of their own worthlessness. It's not. Disrespect is usually a symptom of another person's unresolved inner conflict. The mistake is letting it define your value. The Stoics were crystal clear about this. You can't change people. You can't force someone to appreciate you, support you, or treat you with kindness. But you can remove yourself. You can set boundaries. You can decide that your peace is worth more than another person's approval. And perhaps most importantly, you can practice self-respect in the most important battlefield of all, your own mind. Self-respect requires discipline. Respecting yourself also means being honest with yourself. Are you constantly seeking validation? Are you molding yourself to fit someone else's expectations? Are you tolerating people who drain you because being alone feels scarier than being disrespected? These patterns must be addressed, not with shame, but with awareness. The Stoic path calls for self-discipline. You don't just teach others how to treat you. You teach yourself what kind of life you're willing to accept. This discipline involves saying no to people who cross your lines, but also saying no to your own self-defeating thoughts. When you stop negotiating your worth, you create space for integrity, confidence, and authentic relationships. Creating an environment that honors your worth. It's one thing to walk away from disrespect. It's another thing to intentionally create a life filled with respect, meaning, and peace. That starts with your standards. If someone doesn't meet them, it doesn't make them a bad person, but it does make them the wrong person for your inner circle. When you respect yourself, you naturally attract relationships that reflect that standard. People treat you differently because you carry yourself differently. You speak with more clarity. You walk with more confidence. You become less reactive, more composed. And above all, you protect your peace like it's sacred because it is. Respect is not given, it's modeled. If there's one thing you take away from this, let it be this: people will often follow your lead. If you model self-respect through your words, your choices, and your boundaries, others will either adjust or exit. Either way, you win. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This strength is not loud. It's not aggressive. It's not dramatic. It's the quiet, grounded force of someone who knows exactly who they are and what they stand for. Final thoughts: a life built on inner peace. Thank you for spending time with us today, exploring the deeper meanings behind self-respect and Stoic principles. These aren't just abstract philosophies. They're tools, practical, grounded, and deeply transformative. The next time someone treats you with disrespect, pause. Don't react from emotion. Don't shrink yourself. Ask yourself, what would someone who respects themselves do in this moment? Then, do exactly that. Whether it means walking away, setting a boundary, or calmly holding your silence, you are always in control of your response. And that is where your power lives. If this video resonated with you, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to Stoic Secrets. Your engagement helps us build a community rooted in strength, respect, and resilience, a space where we support each other in living intentional, peaceful lives. And if there's someone in your life who needs to hear this message, send it their way. Because respect, like all good things, grows when it's shared. Until next time, remember, your peace is priceless. Protect it, nurture it, live by it.